sugar, one thing I didn't mention, let me back up and mention this. Your immune system, when a bear's here, your immune system is shut down. Your immune system is a bunch of white blood cells and a bunch of immune cells, immune proteins that go throughout your blood. That system is shut down. You want to shut that down. Think of the last time you had the cold or flu. When you had the cold or flu, did you have a lot of energy or were you just really exhausted? Whenever we have the cold or flu, our immune system ramps up. Our immune system is highly metabolically active, meaning it requires a lot of energy in order for your body to run your immune system. And your immune system is going to be fighting off viruses, bacteria, fungi, pathogens, all of these different things is going to be fought off by your and controlled by your immune system. So if a bear is here, for survival, your body wants to shut down your immune system because for survival, your white blood cells are not going to beat a bear. Your immune proteins are not going to defend off a bear. You want your immune system to ramp up later in case you did get a cut or a bite and you have an open wound, in case there's bacteria or viruses that get in that way. You want your immune system then to be strong. But in the middle of a fight or flight situation, your immune system is shut down. So think of increased blood sugar and depressed immune system. Long term, what does that do to your body? On a day-to-day basis, that's cancer. Cancer is a big immune issue. Cancer is a massive immune issue. Increased blood sugars also contributes to cancer as well. But you also look at colds, flus, viruses, all these different bacteria, the fungi, all these things that can cause infection inside your body increase because your immune system is weakened. That's from chronic stress. Now, when you think of when someone's attention is all over the place and they can't learn new things, they can't concentrate, then you start to think of things like ADD, ADHD. When you start to think of decreased sex drive, when you think of Viagra as one of the leading selling drugs in our country, well, when the bear's here, you're not thinking of hanky-panky. So literally, you can look at the fight or flight response and how it's so important for survival of our body in emergency situations. But if we have the fight or flight response, that sympathetic dominant state, that high sympathetic tone of our sympathetic nervous system, then it leads to destruction and disease in our body long term. So I'm going to talk to you about some different stresses. We just went through this. This is just looking at different things that happen. Your ability to concentrate and learn new things is gone. You also, over time, if you have that bear by your side every single day, your ability to produce serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone, gets diminished. So things like depression, anxiety go way out of the roof. And depression, anxiety is a big, big deal for so many people. So these are all the things that we just talked about. But let's look at chemical stresses first, then we'll look at emotional and physical stresses. I'm going to read a couple of these to you. This is an excellent read. Dr. Blaylock is a neurosurgeon. He's a retired neurosurgeon. He's mainly an author now. But he did research on artificial sweeteners and the effect that those have on your brain. And so if we look at our foods, especially processed foods, there's tons of artificial sweeteners in most of our processed foods. What he found was, and he labeled them, he called them excitotoxins, the taste that kills. Now, excitotoxins, the reason why he called them that, remember how I said your brain and your muscles use sugar or glucose as energy. And so whenever you put in, say you put in a banana in your mouth and you chew it, all of those sensors in your tongue send information to your brain, telling your brain, hey, there's a bunch of glucose coming. When you digest that banana, all that glucose gets into your bloodstream, then goes up to your brain. It nourishes your brain, but it also is giving your brain, your body, nutrients. When you look at artificial sweeteners, they're made to send a sensation to your tongue that goes to your brain that it's 600 times sweeter than natural glucose is. 600 times sweeter than natural sugars are. So your brain gets this information, it gets excited, that's why he calls it excitotoxins. It gets excited because it thinks it has a whole bunch of food that's coming up to the brain. But then you digest whatever that artificial sweetener, that type of food is, that processed food is, it gets into your bloodstream, but there's no nourishment, there's no real glucose, there's no real nutrients, to help your brain function, to help your body function. So what happens is your brain gets excited, and he actually found that it kills your brain cells. The mice that he did the research on found holes in their brain from all of the excitotoxins, the artificial sweeteners that they're having. Most people have excitotoxins, artificial sweeteners, on a daily basis. There's a study in 2009. Each woman's blood is laced with as many as 45 potentially toxic chemicals. Now I'm going to go down here to this bottom one here. This environmental working group in the July 14th, 2005. It says, of the 287 chemicals we detected in umbilical cord blood, so this is in pregnant moms looking at the umbilical cord blood, we know that 180 cause cancer in humans or animals. 180 of those cause cancer, known carcinogens. 217 are toxic to the brain and nervous system, and 208 cause birth defects or abnormal development in animal tests. Now, I'm not telling you these things to freak you out and to scare you, because if you start to work on your diet, start to work on the water you drink, the things, you can greatly diminish these toxins that you're exposed to massively. If you start to have organic food, organic vegetables, pure water, all these different things, you can greatly affect this. I'm telling you this because we have so many toxins and so many chemicals in our environment. Even if we're doing all the things great, we're still going to have exposure to things that can cause problems in our body. So these chemicals wreak havoc on your body. They wreak havoc on your nervous system. They wreak havoc on your spine, your muscles, your tendons, your joints, everything. Now let's go to this next one here. This is looking at emotional or mental stress. And I think all of us could agree we all at different times have different levels of emotional stressors. Sometimes it's really high. For some people, it stays high for their entire life. And they have anxiety and depression and fear and worry. But for other people, there's different stressors throughout our life. Again, short-term is okay. Chronic stress is a problem. See, look at this. It says 49% of the general population has a history of anxiety, depression, substance abuse, or some of all three major problems. Mental stress is a big problem. It says right here, people with panic disorders are more likely to have mitral valve prolapse, hypertension, peptic ulcers, diabetes, angina, or thyroid disease. In fact, men who have anxiety disorders are also at greater risk of cardiac disorders, hypertension, gastrointestinal disorders, respiratory illness, asthma, and back pain. Women with anxiety disorders are more likely to have a history of cardiac problems, hypertension, metabolic, gastrointestinal, dermatological, respiratory disorders, and arthritis. All of those, people just have anxiety and depression are more likely to have all of these physical problems. That's why everything going in your brain affects everything else in your body. That's why we have to take care of our brain with our healthy thoughts, with our good, healthy friends that we surround ourselves, our positive friends that we surround ourselves. Sometimes we need to be the positive person in our relationships. Maybe we need to lift other people's up. That's going to lift us up as well. But look at this last one right here. This is from, let's see, a PhD, Robert Leahy. It says right here, it says, is clinical professor of psychology at Cornell University Medical School. Cornell Medical School. It says, and anxiety has been increasing. It says, anxiety has been increasing over the decades. It says, the average high school kid today has the same level of anxiety as the average psychiatric patient in the early 1950s. We are getting more anxious every decade. So again, not to freak you out with all these things, because mentally, if you have high anxiety and fear and worry and depression, it is physically going to wreak havoc on your body because of all the stress hormones that are released and how it can devastate the control that your brain has over your body. But yes, we need to surround ourselves with positive people. We need to surround ourselves with healthy thoughts. We need to start practicing positive affirmations, speak to ourselves healthy. That's why I have all these other videos and other things that we teach that help you, give you some skill sets to help work on these things. Now, emotionally, we also know if we're at a scary movie and we hear that music, that dum-dum, dum-dum, like with Jaws, we know the shark is coming. and we're just waiting. Think about in that moment, as that shark is coming, how are you breathing? How's the tension throughout your muscles, throughout your body? How's your heart rate doing at that time? I think most of us would agree that our heart rate's pounding, our breathing is really short and shallow breaths, and it's just affecting our whole body. That emotional stress is putting us into fight or flight. Fight or flight. And physically, our muscles are tight and bound up. That affects movement of our spine. That affects movement of our body. It can bind up areas in your spine and your body, which affect movement. This is probably one of the most common stresses that we have in our industrialized lifestyle. Physical stresses. Yes, there's sports injuries. Yes, there's motor vehicle accidents. Yes, there's a slip or fall off a horse when we were riding as a kid, or falling off of our bike or out of a tree. All of those things can affect it. Even the birth process can affect it. Even learning to walk can affect it. But look at this. It says right here, I love this one, this is Annals of Internal Medicine 2015. They're calling sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is the new smoking. So we know smoking causes horrible problems to your lungs, horrible problems to your health, horrible problems for your longevity. They're showing now that smoking does this, or sitting does the same thing as smoking does to our lungs. Sitting does that to our body. Sitting, I've heard this too, this is a great analogy. Sitting to your spine is like sugar to your teeth. We know that if we eat bad food, we eat a lot of sugar, it's going to decay and rot our teeth. If we're sitting, especially if we're sitting with poor posture for long periods of time, that is damaging your spine, damaging your posture, and it's causing arthritis or cavities. It's causing arthritis in your spine just like sugar does to your teeth. And if we aren't getting good motion in our spine, remember, movement drives mechanoreception, movement and position of our spine especially, drives 80% of baseline function of our brain. If we are damaging that spine, that motion, that alignment, we're losing all that stimulation to our brain, we're losing proper baseline function of our brain.